This video shows a tiny fraction of the climate disasters that have occurred this year. The year 2022 was watershed. Everyone has seen how abnormal and unpredictable the cataclysms have become. All hopes that the climate will change gradually have collapsed. The progression of disasters is increasing. Just think, over the past 9 months, 100,000 records of heat waves and 36,000 records of precipitation have been broken. That threatens to cause a food crisis of planetary proportions. In the fall of 2022, almost the entire northern hemisphere received another dose of heat instead of long-awaited coolness. In northern Canada, where the average September temperature is about 8 Celsius degrees, temperatures over 30 Celsius degrees were recorded for several days. And in icy Greenland, the temperature was more than 20 degrees above normal. Floods have become so powerful that even economically stable countries cannot withstand their onslaught. While last year floods of the century were recorded, this year floods of the millennium are occurring everywhere. These are floods that occur with a probability of once in 1,000 years. Such a climate catastrophe hit northeastern Brazil in spring of 2022. And in the summer, as many as 5 of these millennium floods occurred in less than 1 month in the United States. Some 70 million people were affected. That's a huge number. It's not just a statistic, it's 70 million people who have already been affected. The scale of natural disasters is constantly increasing. Emergency services in many countries already say there are not enough people and equipment to deal with the consequences of climate disasters. In Australia, for example, people have given up hope for help. Over the past year, the country has been overwhelmed by historic waves of floods. People are simply abandoned amidst a temporary climate disaster and no help can reach them. And it's only going to get worse. There is less and less hope for international aid because countries are simultaneously faced with cataclysms and have to try to solve their own problems first. In just a few years, when the cataclysms take full force, nobody will come to help because trouble will be everywhere. Today, the consequences of disasters already affect everyone. The world is very interconnected. Flooded or scorched fields in one part of the planet mean a massive increase in food prices or famine in another. The media shows us the disaster itself, but they don't show what happens to people afterward. A cataclysm can last for hours or even minutes, but people are left to cope with aftermath for years. Do you think this is the case only in developing countries? It's been a year since the deadly flooding in Europe in July 2021, and many of those affected are still unable to return to their homes. In technologically advanced Japan, hundreds of people still live in temporary housing 3 years after Typhoon Hagibis. In the United States, after the terrible tornado that hit Kentucky in December 2021, people are still not back in their homes. And there are countless examples of this. We're all vulnerable to the elements. Millions of people lose their homes and everything they own. Everything we have accumulated throughout our lives vanishes in an instant, irrevocably. Dry clothes, a piece of bread, or a sip of water are what becomes most precious. And if you are lucky enough to survive, the most you can count on is a place in a refugee camp. Yes, losing your possessions is not the worst of evils. Many survivors lose family and friends. we can restore everything except lost human life. Cataclysms are escalating and we have no way of coping with them. Existing programs to combat climate change do not work. Over the past 20 years, the situation on the planet has worsened catastrophically and climate disasters continue to increase. And today, when we need to study the real causes of climate change, we as humanity do nothing to understand the cause of growing cataclysms. We waste time and trillions of dollars on an only false theory of anthropogenic climate change and do nothing. It's simply a suicide. We watch our world crumble. We hope that we need to be patient and wait it out and everything will return to normal. It won't. Our world will never be the same again. If we continue to do nothing, tomorrow the elements will destroy our life and it will be too late to do anything about it. Now, the search for salvation from a planetary climate catastrophe must become the most critical task for mankind, and all of the society's resources must be devoted to it.